Hey, I just wanted to come on here and read through my first blog post. It's going to be the last commentary I have on Punt, at least for now. Let's do it. Thanks so much for being a part of this journey with me. You would not believe it. As I was working on this piece, I asked ChatGPT, how did the Kemetics refer to a queen? It said, Nisu. At this point, I'm like, oh gosh, because it looked foreign to me. But then, just like magic, the word replayed in my mind, and I couldn't understand why it seemed so familiar. And no joke, I thought of the South African national anthem. I could hear it in the line, Malupaganisu upundo lwayo, which means, let its horn be lifted. Yo, magic was in the air because right next to that is the word upundo. Upundo means horn, like the point or tip of something. The H is silent in many Nguni and Bantu words. Also, D and T are interchangeable based on phonetics, so the pronunciation becomes upunto. And there we have it, engraved in the national anthem in Zulu, Punt. And here's a picture of Taba Buseu. And Taba Buseu is a very famous mountain in Lesotho. And it's where the first king of Lesotho is buried. And so, just like in Kemet, they have a history of burying their kings um, on in pyramidal pyramidal structures, or a mountain or a pyramid. Um, Another thing that is significant about mountains and Taba Buseu, when they were in a fight, like when they were being attacked by a different army, the king, they would go up on top of the mountain at night and they would roll like big uh rocks down onto their enemy. So the mountains were known to be a refuge, they were known to be a protective place for people back in the day in Africa. So mountains had a very mountains were just known to be a place of refuge. The symbol, it became a symbol of safety, of refuge, of home, of protection, a symbol of divine protection. Lesotho Lesotho is known for its shepherding traditions Basutu and the Basutu donkey, a symbol that appears even in Christian symbolism. In Basutu tradition, when a boy turns 13 to 15, he is sent into the mountains alone with only his herd and a donkey. He stays there for weeks or months, depending on the season. During this sacred time, he learns his sheep, and his sheep learns his voice. Sound familiar? It is my theory that when Jesus disappeared at age 13, during his time in the temples of Kemet, he likely spent his hidden years in South Africa, in the highlands of Lesotho, learning to be a shepherd. And when he returned to Jerusalem, he returned on a donkey, as the people cried, Hosanna in the highest. So the story is that Jesus went missing at 13 and then showed back up when he was like 30 years old. Some people hypothesize that he went to India and that's why he became so peaceful, because he learned the ways of the Buddha. But my theory is, this is ancient Africa, and if the Kemetics, if the Cometians were pinging South Africa so many times, and they wanted to hide a young boy, uh, everyone knows when you go for safety, when you go for refuge, you go home. And um, the Cometians were always referring to Punt as home. Kemetic spirituality inspired all three Abrahamic faiths, but each one in different ways. The religious connection here binds Kemet to Punt, or modern day South Africa, in a sacred dance between both mountainous ridges. This here is, let me just keep reading. Besides the visual, thunder. Sorry. That would be confirmation. That's what that's called. Okay. Besides the visual resemblance between Djeser Djeseru and Table Mountain, the symbolic similarities are too striking to ignore. And then you see the hills here. They're very picturesquely similar, even. They're very picturesque and similar to Djeser Djeseru. Okay, let's walk through the names. Djeser Djeseru means holy of holies. It's a mountain carved temple. Het Heru represents the hills of Djeser Djeseru. Hatshepsut believed that she was the reincarnation of the goddess Het Heru. Table Mountain is the southern edge of Drakensberg Mountain. 12 apostles are the hills along Table Mountain. And Jesus is said to be the reincarnation of God. So you have this mirroring happening with Djeser Djeseru and Table Mountain. Hatshepsut, one of Kemet's most powerful queens, reigned during the 18th dynasty while her son was too young to rule. She commissioned a temple carved directly into the mountainside, Djeser Djeseru, dedicated to Het Her, or Het Heru. There is also a shrine to Anpu, the guardian. In other words, a shrine to the one named for the mountain, and a shrine to the one named for the river. Het Heru means house of Heru. She is the goddess of Punt, often depicted as a cow. Similarly, the Sutu people of the south have rituals that involve cows and bulls, libations, singing, and dancing. The resemblance in spiritual practice is striking. When Tuti spoke, he referred to his audience as people of clay. Maseru is the name of the bright red ochre used to make clay. This rich sacred soil covers the vastness of southern Africa, coiled by the Dragon Mountain. The silent D in Tuti is similar to the silent D in Djeseru, especially when the name Jesu is derived from it. Holding onto its sacred meaning of holy. Even in language, Het Heru, or House of Heru, mirrors Maseru, capital of Lesotho. Jesru becomes Jesu when you drop the D and the Eru softens on the breath. Jesru, 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 like that. Until it completely becomes Jesu, Jesru, Jesru, Jesu. Jeseru, Jesru, Jesu, meaning Jesus in Sutu. Angpu, the sacred jackal, mirrors Isanku, the Zulu name for the river Ngu that traces the mountain. Today, most people don't live along the stretch of the River Nu, commonly known as the Orange River, but Maseru, the capital of Lesotho, sits along the Caledon River, one of the River Nu's tributaries that border South Africa. In this context, there is no confusion about where the Horn of Africa is. It is not northeast. It is the highest point in all its lands. It is the land that was lifted above all chaos, calamity, and catastrophes that affected the earth. The evidence that Punt is the top of the Drakensberg Mountains in South Africa, is overwhelming. The expansive range spreads across the entire lower portion of Africa. At a time before borders, Punt wasn't just the top of the mountain, now known as Lesotho. Punt was the entire mountain range, traced by rivers and tributaries. The early Nama and Khoisan, who lived in this area, had many ways of marking this sacred place, where they all survived and thrived during the last ice age. This tradition of honoring the land and the people didn't stop with the Khoi and the San. Thousands of years later, the Kemetic people paid homage to Punt in countless ways that became the stitching in their entire culture. And now, thousands of years later, its name rises again in song. Nkosi Sikeleli, Africa. Hey, thanks for coming. Make sure you like and subscribe, and see you next time.